Hello, welcome back to day 2, and I promise this video will be shorter to make up for how lengthy yesterday's was. So before we kick off, I hope you have a beverage of choice. Today we are on the water. Yeah, so how was that then? Really today I want to give you time to just regroup, breathe. The journey of uncovering, connecting with, spending more time thinking about your story is a big one. So really the intention for today is just to give you a bit more time to kind of sit with what came up yesterday, perhaps have a couple of questions, so maybe add some things that were left out, or maybe reflect some things that were written down, and also maybe spend a bit more time finishing it if you didn't have time to yesterday. So yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I've done this exercise a number of times, and every time I do it, I still struggle to start, to know where to start. I go through these almost arguments with myself where I'll go to write something down that I feel, and then I will almost gaslight myself for feeling that and saying that, and then there'll be guilt, and then there'll be vulnerability, and then I'll change it, and it's a whole thing. So I just want to acknowledge that if you went through your own journey yesterday. It's funny, I find, so one of my core stories that has definitely been a theme throughout a lot of my life, and in many ways is what has led me to the work that I'm doing today and the building of selfhood, was and is the story I told about me as a kid and this feeling of not belonging. And so when I go through this process, and again when thinking about how I start, a lot of the story is around me not fitting in. And I speak about this quite publicly, but being mixed race, being the brown kid in black and white families, when I, in an experience like this or an exercise like this, when I go and quickly do a little snapshot of my childhood, that's the most prominent piece that often comes up, which is interesting because whilst that may very well be true and may very well be a part of my story, it's 100% not my only story from childhood. I have so many experiences and memories and moments of joy and connection and belonging. But what's interesting is that when I'm looking back right now in this moment as this version of me, that not belonging piece is specifically salient. And that might be because of the work that I'm doing, because I'm going on podcasts or giving talks or writing posts, or creating content around identity and the journey that you go on and the importance of going on that journey. It's going to heighten that story for me more than perhaps in times when that's just not something I'm thinking about. Say I'm hanging out with my family or introducing people to my family, the story from my childhood that might be most salient are all of the ridiculous games that we got up to when we were younger. So again, it's just that acknowledgement that this exercise may change every single time you do it. And even if you're looking at the same season of life, there may be different stories that are more salient or come out. And so again, it's almost just that permission and that acknowledgement that this is going to keep moving. This isn't I know it's called the writing room, but this isn't about writing excellence or things being black and white, right and wrong. It's really an experience, a process, to just check in and spend more time with you. Because I hope that one thing that you did get from yesterday is that it maybe made you feel a little bit more connected to you. Maybe it brought up feelings about the fact that perhaps you haven't given enough time to you. You haven't valued the importance of your story and the things you've been through and the experiences you've had. And I find a lot of people often don't think their story is worthy of being told. And I'm going to stop you right there because it 100% is. That's how we as humans connect, is through stories. Me telling you my story, you may see some of your own story in it. And it's why within selfhood, we're so big on those community moments where you connect with big groups, or you connect anonymously, or you connect in small groups, because just the sharing of stories and hearing other people's stories is huge in making you realize A, the importance of your own, and B, the fact that you're not alone in it. So today, two things I want to ask you to think about, to reflect on in the exercise. So the first is, and if you did the extra homework, I asked you to find some pictures. And if you didn't get around to it yesterday, have a look today and see if you can find some. It might be sending a message to a family member to see if they have any. It might be going back into those old Facebook albums. You might just have some stuff on your phone. It might be physical photos, whatever it is. But if you can, try and find pictures of you from different seasons of life. And the reason that I ask you to do that is that what you may have found is that when writing your story, potentially you focus on the beginning, potentially you focus on kind of where you're at right now, but the stuff in the middle often gets forgotten or lumped in or overlooked. And we do that. We omit big parts of our stories, sometimes consciously, often unconsciously. And we do it for a number of reasons. So one may be that it just didn't raise any kind of awareness. There's probably a lot of our life where things are just good. We're just trucking along, living our lives. We're not particularly sad, we're not particularly happy. And that's the thing, our brain's always going to remember those really extreme emotions, the high highs and the low lows. But a lot of the life, that actual living that goes on in the middle, is often overlooked. So it might just be that it didn't raise awareness. We sometimes overlook things that were particularly painful or traumatizing. And again, with all of this work, my encouragement is that you have a support system, whether it's therapists, whether it's friends, whether it's family, because this can bring stuff up. And this isn't me to say you need to go there right now if you don't feel like you have that support, but it's just the acknowledgement that perhaps there are things that you have been overlooking. And that's okay. It might also be that it feels incongruent with who you want to be. So there may be things that you did, or a way that you used to see the world, or things that you're embarrassed of or ashamed of, that you're going to overlook because it creates a cognitive dissonance, like a discomfort in your body when thinking about and when currently telling the story of who you are. So if you believe certain things now, your values, your integrity, but there was a time in your life where you didn't do that or you went against that, it's probably easier for your brain to just like bypass it, because otherwise it creates that icky feeling of like, okay, but I believe this about myself, but I did this, so how can this be true? And again, no right or wrong answer. I'm just bringing this stuff up to awareness so it's something you can start thinking about and just acknowledging and being aware of. So the first thing is really thinking about, what parts of your story did you overlook, intentionally or unintentionally? And again, seeing if you have time today to just go back and sit with that. You don't need to do anything, it's just the acknowledgement. And then the other piece is, are there certain parts of your story that you have over-rehearsed? So it could be the stuff that's happened most recently because it's just front of mind, it's more salient. So when you think about your whole story, you might see that it is really through the lens of who you are right now, or what's going on right now. Or my example of when I think about my childhood, it's really rooted in the work I'm doing right now. So they're the key parts of my childhood that I'm thinking about. It could also be, again, because it was something really extreme, both positive and negative, again. So it's created almost like a marker where our brain will go there because it really stands out amongst everything else. But the interesting thing with over-rehearsing, and the thing to be aware of with over-rehearsing, is that it can become something that there's introspection, there's rumination, and then we can get over-obsessed with things. So there might be one thing that happened in your life that was an incredibly big thing, not taking away from that, but it's created this over-dominance in how you see yourself and how you see the world. And so it might create more biases in what you think is more likely to happen, or how you think certain people are more likely to act based on this thing that happened to you that has been over-rehearsed and ruminated on a lot, where potentially things that counteract that have been thought about less. So again, all of this to say, and acknowledging that these are big topics that require a lot more time, but what my hope is with these short-ish videos, still under 10, well, I'll go over 10, but we'll be about 10, is that it starts to raise awareness. it starts to bring some consciousness, things that perhaps you haven't really thought about before, that you can spend time thinking about today, you can spend time talking about with others. Again, selfhood, this is what we do in this community, so you can come to future experiences, engagements, workshops. But the reason that I share this is that the more aware we are of this stuff, the more power we have over it. And again, it's not to say that we have to change anything right away. It's just to be aware of the impact of the story we tell, the stories that we're emitting, the stories that we are over rehearsing, and how that may impact how you show up in your life, both today, but also in the future. So today's exercise is just to spend a bit more time with your story. So if you didn't get to finish yesterday, take some time to finish today. Again, you could set a timer, 5, 10, 15 minutes, and just write. I'm also going to drop some prompts in the email that I would love you to sit with and ask yourself. So one is going to be any chapters, experiences, stages, seasons that have been left out, and then just exploring why you think that might be. Any key seasons, stages, experiences, themes that are being over rehearsed, and why you think that is. And then just reflecting on the parts that perhaps were easier to write about, and also the parts that were harder to write about. So today's really just about finishing up the work you were doing yesterday, giving yourself a bit more time with it, and then tomorrow we will get into some more of the details. So as always, we would love to hear how it's going for you, things coming up for you. So please reply to this email, or you can DM us over at our Selfhood Instagram account, or you can DM me personally at my personal Instagram account. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow.